was good, man.
So, man, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I think it's interesting as well. Like, I mean, we spent our whole entire life together, but our childhood experiences, what we got from them, were probably, a little bit different between the two of us. So you talk a little bit about like just from the beginning when you were a kid upbringing, like in our household, like what was that for you? How'd you tell that story?
Being the middle child, I got five siblings. I was in the middle, so I kind of got to the point where I got to choose. Lauren kind of got forced to, be this adult at an early age. She was the oldest sister of six, where Steven, was the baby. He kind of got catered to. I was in the middle. I kind of got to pick which side that I wanted to flow on. And most of my life, it was towards that, being that baby side, people kind of catering to me and things like that. But as I got older and, brought people in my life to challenge me in those areas, I took on one of the responsible role and just trying to be, a better example. Growing up, I don't want to say I hung with the wrong people, but we just weren't doing things we were supposed to be doing. Some of those people that I still hang out with, like Harry, we were all smoking, drinking, doing stuff together. So I wouldn't say it's the wrong people. We were just doing the wrong things. But now doing that stuff, I kind of realized who you're around is so important. And back then, I didn't really care. I didn't really think it would affect me. And looking back now, from Missouri, from just those times where you wanted to be that cool person, and you thought these things that everybody was doing was cool, but you look back and get older, you realize that wasn't cool. The cool person was really the person studying while everybody was going out, or just being just themselves. To me, at least, people have different perspectives, but I just, as far as upbringing, I was always in the sports as long as young as I can remember. I think I started playing soccer when I was like 4 or 5, and I think you were 3 or something.
Yeah.
So I mean,
that was nice too.
So I mean, yeah, just being the sports was always it's always a place of peace for me. Ever since I can remember, it's just a place where it's kind of like video games for me now. You can kind of just get lost in it, and that's the only thing that matters is this game or this sport. So I think that's where it always was for me as an escape.
Yeah. So as far as like when you kind of came to that point, like through our upbringing, like we all grew up in our parents' households. There's a certain time where it's like, okay, I'm taking everything that mom and dad taught me, and now I'm just living my life, like making it my own type of thing, and like choosing my path. Have you had that moment? And if you did, when did it happen?
Yeah, I think so originally after commerce, I wanted to go to Missouri, but me and Dad were talking, and basically he convinced me to go to that Mississippi school I went to at JUCO, and I hated it there, but I learned so much about myself there. But if it was up to me, I would have just went to Missouri. And looking back on it, I still wish I would have just done that, kind of with my heart. Nothing happens to us by accident, so everything had its purpose and everything had its course. But
can you just talk a little bit more about like Missouri commerce, like why you were going there and everything?
I went to commerce because I think in my senior year I only weighed like 145 pounds. I was small, and I think I was like the era right before like small receivers were cool. It was like Calvin Johnsons, the Julios, all those guys. But so people weren't looking for a small receiver. I think I could have went D1, but Commerce was the one to show me love. Most of everybody called me every day. Every time after a game, they hit me up. Just everything. So I went over there, and I was actually starting my freshman year, but I was like, I'm just. There's more for me out here. Like it was so small. Like everybody knew each other. I don't really like that. I like being a small fish in a big sea and make myself that big fish. That's kind of like how I like to do. But commerce wasn't that at all. Looking back on it, I wish I would have stayed there just because it had everything that I needed. Just like I said, hindsight, I was 2020. But so I after Commerce, so I said I was trying to go to Missouri because they were going to the SEC and just like read everything on everybody was like, oh, they're not going to make it, they're not going to be good enough, and all this stuff. And I kind of felt like that was me in a school, how they were describing them. So I wanted to go help them reach a height that I know they could reach. So, I went to the school in Mississippi, and basically I got tricked to coming there. They were like telling me I had a scholarship and everything already, and when I got off the plane, they're like, "Oh, you actually don't have a scholarship. We wanted to save for next year. We already have out of state players." So that didn't sit right with me really. Yeah, it didn't sit right with me. Like I'm real big on just being straightforward. They kind of just betrayed my trust there. So that's when I started just really um, trying to go to Missouri at that point. But through that process, they still want me to practice. So I go down there and practice just to whatever, just to keep refining my craft. Yeah. But I was really just working on myself outside of football and not even realizing that's what I was doing, or at least that's what God was doing. And we grew up in church, so but it was always me, mom, dad, and God. Whenever it was me and God. So I think during that period, God kind of just took me and was like, "They're not always going to be here. It has to be just me and you. That's the only way to truly grow into who you're supposed to be." So I remember I was on the phone with Dad one time, and I was just so lost. I didn't know anything outside of football. That's all I ever played. That's all I wanted to play. That's all I ever focused on. And I was on the phone with Dad crying. He's like, "What's wrong?" I just was so just lost for words and lost. But like at that moment, like I felt God like wrapping His arms around me. Because I don't even think I was crying because I was lost. I think I was crying because I felt like I finally found God in that moment. And it just was like overwhelming, like with all different kinds of emotions. And then I just kind of started praying for myself and just really trying to seek God. And Taylor, I was praying, I was like, "God, just bring somebody in my life to help me to seek you. I want to do it myself, but I need some help." Taylor, he's always big on faith and all this stuff, and literally like 10 minutes later, he calls me. He's like, "Hey man, he's like, I was trying to read the Bible more, and I want somebody to hold me accountable to it." He's like, "Let us do some different Bible plans and pray together, once a week." So it was kind of started me and Taylor. He was helping me on that journey, and just then I kind of just took it upon myself to really just dig deeper. But he always put the right time.
So going into that and how Taylor kind of came into your life, you're saying at the right time. Can you talk about the environment we put ourselves in, and like the nurturing that either our friends can or can't have, and just how that helped you out during that time?
Yeah, I think that's everything. So I don't know who said it, but somehow it's like the average of the 5 people you hang with the most. And I think that's very true. Looking back on my life and looking at like, other people's lives, like the people, like even if you don't mean to, like you start hanging with your girlfriend a lot, you gotta start using each other's lingo and stuff like that, like unconsciously, it's not on purpose. And it's just they say faith comes by hearing, so hearing is important. Growing and doing what you're trying to do. So the more you hear things, like your subconscious is stronger than your conscious. So you're subconsciously picking up these things and not even realizing you're becoming these things without even trying. So that's just the power of our subconscious. Yeah. And I think hanging around people who have the same drive as you, have the same goals. They don't have the same thing as you necessarily, but they need to have the same drive towards life as you, because I think that's important. But I lost my train of thought.
No, that's perfect. And also, I mean, and this is like kind of really why I wanted to do this, was just because I feel like that we, like as men, and I've talked to you about this before, like we don't talk enough, and we don't talk about kind of the hard places we've been in enough, because we can we can help each other out a lot more. We do this with other men instead of, you know, like our girlfriends, our wives, or sisters, and all that stuff because they can't relate to what it's like having that expectation or the pressure of people asking you what you're gonna do, um, and like what are your plans and all this stuff. You know, it's a constant question that you're gonna have to answer, um, and so it's just interesting to see like how your upbringing, how you went about it, and how it's kind of brought you to here today. I think you know a lot of where we end up is a lot of um, kind of how we view things at the time. It's like a constant perception change at the time. And it's like, how do we know when we know when we're in that position, things will turn out differently within our perception at that time? And that I feel like is due to not only our environment, but just like who we are at that time and stuff, and that is to our friends and everything. So,
Yeah, and I think what makes everybody's a different world, and what makes that world's perspective. So I think just knowing that and understand that, some people. I keep losing my train of thought. What was the question? Okay, now I remember what I was going to say.
all right, good.
So, based on our perspective, it's like the way you look at yourself is the way you look at the world most of the time. And so, if you have a friend who it's just important to be with people who are congruent and honest with themselves. Like somebody can't be honest with themselves, why would they be honest with you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's something that's really important, and that's really helped me as far as who I choose, who I want to hang out with, and want to be around. But you know, a lot of the times, if I was honest with myself, I would, I wasn't a good friend or putting out that good energy into making my environment better, and I was attracting those people. I feel like what you put out is what you always attract. It's almost like the law of attraction, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
But and when you reap what you sow, you know, like if I'm sowing, you know, dishonesty, you're gonna get dishonesty back. If I'm sowing trust, you get trust back. That's just the law, the spiritual law of the universe, really. And I think that was one thing that I never wanted to believe growing up. It's the environment that I was in affected me, but it does 100%. And if you're not surrounding yourself with people who are like you, like-minded, you know, want to see you succeed, hold yourself accountable, it's gonna be you. It's like I always say, the way you do nothing is the way you do everything. Because if you do something lackadaisical right here, you do this stuff hard, this lackadaisical is eventually going to sleep over in this spot, and this thing is going to start being lackadaisical. But so it's just important to be congruent with whatever you do, or everything's going to.
Yeah, a lot of interrupt you. Hold that thought because you're going into something that I want to go into in a little bit that you touched on in your video. But before we jump into that, can you just jump into the lowest place you've ever been mentally in your life? And if it's now, how are you dealing with it? And if it was then how'd you overcome that?
I think the lowest place I've ever been in, I'll speak into existence that I would ever be in, is when I was in Henderson. I was just
What was that?
2015, I believe, 2016.
Is that pre, post commerce?
It was post-commerce.
Post commerce.
Yeah, so this is the last school I went to. Last time I played football, and everything just looked impossible. Football was no longer a place of peace. It was a place that brought me more turmoil. So I feel like I had no escape, really. You know, I really consistent from East Central, the Mississippi school, to Henderson with my relationship with God. So once I went to Missouri, I saw things kind of like, you know, working in my favor.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot what I did to get there. I stopped doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like they say it's like the book called Slide Edge. It's basically saying like we get to this place of survival, and then we stop doing what we did when we were down here, when we start seeing ourselves thrive, and we just start going back down just to the survival mode. So that's what I did. Like I got to this place where I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. So I stopped doing all the stuff I was doing out here to get to right here. So I went right back down here, and I was partying a lot again, drinking and stuff, smoking, all that.
What do you think made you stop? Like once you got to that point, like what do you think it was like complacency? Like what do you think like made you stop doing the things that got you to that point? Because I feel like a lot of dudes deal with that like we work to have something, and once you have it, it's like, all right, now I can kind of let the gas off. Like,
I think complacency for sure, and you forget the little things, the discipline that I feel like pain does something that success will never be able to do. It hurts to be down there, so you have to change something. There's something hitting you every day, like something needs to change, something needs to change. When you're success, like it's just everything's flowing. It seems like so you forget these little underlying things that you were doing or had to do in order to get here or maintain that. And I think pain always reminds you, like, man, I gotta get out of here. I gotta do something. I gotta be this way. I gotta do this. But when things feel good, it's easy just to let off the gas and just kind of ride that wave of success.
and that's real too, because I think like I guess something kind of cool about pain is that everybody knows how to deal with pain. You know, no matter like how you've been through your life, like everybody is gone through something that's getting in pain, but not everybody knows how to deal with success, and not everybody knows how to like once you get to that point, how to stay there. Like, everybody knows how to get out of pain because it's uncomfortable, right? Nobody wants to be in that long term, but success is comfortable. So it's like, how do I still work while I am comfortable?
Mm.
That's that's a tough thing to wrap our heads around, but also like just getting to that point and just being like, even though I'm seeing my fruits, there's still more to eat, type of thing.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's about staying present, but remembering where you were and where you don't want to get back to.
Yeah.
Don't let that drive you as fear, but let it drive you as a place of I can do anything I want to do.
Yeah.
You all continue to evolve like we're made to evolve. You see everything that God created from trees to bushes to plants, like they all have a lifestyle where they evolve and they grow and they grow and they die. That's what we're gonna do too. We're gonna grow and grow and grow and die. So it's like you gotta understand how the world works and maximize what's given to you, and you can't take anything for granted. You see like COVID and all these different things. How many lives have been taken, and I think if COVID's taught us anything is to cherish what we're in, what we're doing, and do it to the fullest. You never know when your last time's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. Yeah. So lowest point you would say was in that going from that comfortable spot to being in that kind of just normal college things like.
I wouldn't even say comfortable spot. I would say it's a spot where I see fruit. Wasn't necessarily comfortable because there was trials I had to go through, but I just started seeing like what I was working for, and I got overly excited. Instead of using that to be like, oh, I like this, I got to do more.
Yeah.
I kind of just let out the gas. So, so back to the lowest spot. I remember this is why I don't really watch TV now, because I remember literally that's all I did. I would go to practice like. I was never in my body. I was never present. I always was trying to I was just so sad and I was always thinking like trying to get out of that spot. I think that's why I did it until I finally just stayed present. It was like, this is who I am. This sucks. This is a dark spot, but I have to embrace it. Like you don't get God's never gonna. When you pray, God's never gonna pluck you out of something. That defeats the purpose of being in that spot. If everything works together for our good, that means you have to go through everything for it to work together for our good. If it's not good, it's not done.
Yeah.
And I feel like so many times, like when we're praying, God, get me out of this spot. Instead of we should be praying, God, help me to endure this because you got me here for a reason.
Yeah.
So once I endure this, I'm going to get what you planted me here for. And as I was telling my friend, one time, we were even talking about it earlier today, like perspective. Like what's the difference between when you plant the seed when you bury the seed. Same process. You dig a hole, right?
Yeah.
You put something in there. You put something over there, right?
Yeah.
The only difference is the expectation. Okay, you can't look at it as like all the stuff's getting piled on me, all it's killing me. You gotta look at all the stuff's getting put on me. Now it can plant me into what I'm supposed to be, and that's what life is. It's like looking at it from a different perspective and looking at it as a moment to embrace this pain, to embrace this hurt, to embrace this heartache, and make something, make a flower.
Yeah. And so that's kind of how it was for you. Like in that time, you kind of had to have your mind shift, like kind of seeing from that point of like I'm in this dark spot, I'm getting buried right now, but I'm planting, and I'm growing, I'm learning, and that's kind of what's helping you blossom through that.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah, exactly. And it's all about one of the biggest things that I'm just not there. I think it's at the beginning of the year. Like you're always in a season of life. You're in a season of planting. You're in a season of harvest. It's really planting and harvest, and you have to identify what season you're in. Because I was in a season of planting for so long and wanting harvest, and harvest wouldn't come, and I was getting frustrated. But not in that season.
yeah.
So why am I getting mad at the season? I'm in a season of planting, and the harvest not coming. That's not the season I'm in. So once I realized, like, I'm just in a planting season. I gotta embrace this plant. I gotta do what I need to do to plant. I gotta water this year, and cultivate this. And as I finally start focusing on that planting, that sowing, because that's the season I was in. Now all of a sudden I look up. Oh, I'm in my harvest season now.
Yeah.
Now the stuff I was expecting in that planting season. Now I can have those expectations for that because I'm in my harvest season, and I won't get frustrated because I was expecting harvest in my planting season. I was getting frustrated because I wasn't seeing it, but it wasn't in that season. So I was just wasting my energy getting mad at something that wasn't supposed to be there at the moment anyway.
That's so good, because I feel like that's one of the main things is just understanding what season you're in, just as you were saying, because it makes it so much easier to identify things. And it's like change of expectations. It's like, okay, well, I'm not expecting for this to happen right now because I understand that I'm not in the spot that I need to be to do that. So I have to grow right here in order to be shown, in order to come out of that. Just going a little bit more into this mental check started between me and about 9 other guys, and James being one of them. And we basically had a video that was made that kind of talked about struggle post-COVID, what they learned during that time, how they overcame that struggle, what things they were looking forward to. So I'm gonna open up one of James's first videos, check them out, and talk about that there.
The biggest challenge I faced in 2020 was probably knowing the difference between fighting for something and forcing something. I feel like for so long I forced so many things in my life that maybe didn't belong. Maybe the time wasn't right that they didn't belong, and I was just a forcer. I thought forcing was fighting sometimes, but it wasn't. That's something I still struggle with, trying to know the difference between that, and that ties into letting go. That's something that's a challenge for me, is letting go of things that I invested in a lot, that I believe are mine, that I believe is possible. Some things that are possible just aren't for you at the time. I feel like the more you force something, the harder it is to achieve it.
Before you get into that, can you just talk about forcing versus fighting?
So I'll break this down by saying being thirsty and being hungry. There's a difference between that. Like thirsty is like any opportunity I get, I'm gonna jump on it. It doesn't matter what it is, I'm gonna jump on it. If it looks anything like what I want, I'm gonna jump on it. And there's hungry of knowing like, okay, this every opportunity is, it's because the opportunity looks like what I need, doesn't mean I'm supposed to jump right on it. But then you gotta be careful with that, like talking yourself out of, jumping on opportunities. So there's like, it's real thin, but it's really just, for me, how I do it is, if I'm right with God, I know He's going to bring the opportunity that's supposed to be my life. And, if I'm in tune and I'm right, I'll feel it and I'll take advantage of it. But I just learned, like, when I'm not right with God, it says in Matthew 6:33, seek the kingdom first and his righteousness, and everything that you want will be added on to you. So when I'm seeking him first, and I'm trying to be in this position for his glory and not mine, I think I just see things more clearly, and like there's just an urging in me to go do it. I think a lot of the time, right there, my relationship with him was just real teeter-tottering. Sometimes I'll be really in tune, sometimes I wouldn't. And when I get out of tune and try to make decisions, they always fail. But when I was in tune and made decisions, it always had fruit attached to it. So I think with that, for me personally, that's how I, distinguish between forcing and fighting. You're gonna be forcing when you want it for you. When you want it for God, it's gonna be fighting. It's gonna put the things in your heart that you need to fight for in order to bring him glory. And I think, just for me, that's kind of how I went about deciphering it. And just like right there, I think I just wasn't in my discipline of, waking up in the morning and God being the first thing was on my mind, praying and reading and, really setting out, really carving out time instead of just like, oh, I'm doing nothing right now. I guess I'm going to read. Really just like, okay. Because I feel like for as long as God was showing me about 4 a.m. to pray and read, and I was like, oh, it's early. But every day, there's like a month and a half straight, I wake up at 4 a.m. every time, like wide awake, like exactly 4 a.m. It's like, I'm going to sleep. Yeah. But I'm just going to go to sleep. And I just thought that for so long until, I think it was the beginning of, I want to say it was the beginning of, March or April. I was like, I'm really going to do this for, the rest of this year and just kind of see how I feel. And all the way up to this Christian life season started and got just so busy. I still did it, but it was like I think I was like 5, but it just put my mind in just such a better place and just really made it easy to hear when God was talking to me about, okay, take this opportunity, don't do this, And before that, I was just like, okay, I was a trial in Dallas, I'm going. I'm going to try to go to every single trial in Dallas, knowing it's all about appointment and opportunity. If you know your appointment's at 1 o'clock, then you're gonna do everything you need to do to get prepared for this appointment at 1. But if you don't know when your appointment is, you'll jump on this and you weren't even ready for the appointment, you took it anyway, and that it really hurts you more than it helps you because it wasn't your appointment, so it wasn't for you, and it's not going to work in your favor. So it's really just depleting your confidence, rather than you just be patient with this appointment that was already for you, for you to thrive. And
going back to the being when you're planted, and in that because I think that's another thing that we kind of get sometimes when we are in that season of just growing, learning, maybe not in the job that we want to be in or just in the place we want to be in. All we're going to see is everyone else who is in that place. That's where our perspective is because that's what we desire, right? And so that's all we're seeing. And so it's like, how do you stay planted during that time? How do you not, you think about anything that comes too early, it can be a bad thing, right? Think about pregnancies. The baby comes not on time, comes too early, there's usually complications that go on because it didn't come at the right time. I feel like it's the same thing with us. It's like being patient in that season and allowing ourselves to just sit and grow and really learning about ourselves. It's like how we respond and how we bounce back to this time of just going internal. So
I think that's definitely what COVID did for a lot of people. A lot of people were, for a point, people weren't working, people weren't, doing things. So, I feel like God forces us to say, who are you outside of what you do? What you do can't be your identity. Whenever you ask somebody, first thing you ask somebody, so what do you do? What we do is attach to our identity. That's not how it should be, And I feel like throughout this time, it really helped me detach from, football is just what I do. It's never, will never be who I am. It's always going to be what I do. It's a byproduct of James. It's not what makes James.
That doesn't come with you either.
Exactly. So it's once I separated that, I took, okay, this is football, this is James. They can be together, but they don't have to be together for me. This is still James, no matter where football's over here, football's over here, football's right here. I'm still James. It's a part of me, not who I am. You know, and I thought it was who I was.
Yeah.
So, you know, football's going bad, I was terrible. Football's going good, I was wonderful. And that's when I just realized, like, I gotta change.
Yeah. And so I think you just touched on something that men all around the world face, the identity crisis of what we do and against who we are. Why? Like, so I mean, I think it happens all the time, but why do you think that it is so hard for us to separate ourselves from what we do? Like, just
I think that's how the world gives us value. It's like, that's why that's always the first question. Like, what do you do? So if I sit here and somebody asks what I do, I tell them, I'm a janitor. They're like, oh, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, it just seems a negative connotation to it. When why, just because I'm a janitor, that's not my value.
Yeah.
That's just how you value me.
Yeah.
And just again, it comes back to what I was saying earlier. It's like, how you look at yourself, how you look at people. So when you see that little value in that janitor, that's because you felt like you were a janitor, you have little value. You know what I mean? So I think it's just part of, I just think it's just because the world sets it up like that, you know?
what about ourselves? Like, I mean, you would say that you put how many hours into football in your life?
A lot.
Over years, like 20 something years, right? Of grinding and investing. And it's like, I put so much time into this. You're telling me this isn't a part of me? Like, you're telling me that I don't hang on to that? Like, that thing shouldn't hang on to me? Like, how? Like, how do we tell people that?
You just gotta think about, even if, and this is for an athletic standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
even if I played till this is long 40, and I started when I was playing football when I was 11, that's 30 years of my life. Even if I live for that, I think the average lifespan is like 80 years, still got 40 more years left. That's only half my life. So I'm gonna let my life stop, and I'm not gonna be able to grow anymore. I'm not gonna be able to play football. So that ends your growth. Can't grow right. I'm done.
Yeah.
Your growth is done. So if you attach it to something like that, once you stop it, you can't grow anymore. So I think just understanding something with more eternal value, holding on to that, putting your identity in that, you know, you're going to invest in a lot of things, you know, and sometimes I realize it's not even for you sometimes. Sometimes it's for somebody over there looking about to give up and seeing how hard you're working at something and inspire them to keep going. You know, when we think about ourselves, we get upset.
No, it's good. All right, we're going to go into the next part of the video.
How I overcame those challenges. I kind of just let things flow, not in a way that I wasn't planning or wasn't intentional, but in a way that I did all I could do, and then I released it to God, to release it to just away from myself. You know, after I exhausted all my resources and, you know, all the things that I thought I could do in that situation, I just released it. That's kind of how I overcame that. You know, just like I said, I'm still struggling with it. I still struggle with figuring out the difference between those two things. He showed a lot of people's true colors, showed me that I wasn't aligned with a lot of people in my life that, you know, have been my friends for a long time. And that's okay. You know, I feel like when you grow apart from somebody you've known for a long time, you feel bad about it. But it's okay. You know, it's okay to grow apart. It's okay to, when my dad told me, it's like you can still have the relationship without the friendship. Or I think it's vice versa. You can still have the friendship without the relationship. And you can still be friends with people. It doesn't mean you have to invest in that relationship the same way you once did, but you can still be friends with that person.
It's weird, like watching yourself like a year ago, it like can you remember exactly how you felt when you took that video?
I won't say it's weird. It's refreshing. You kind of see the growth, and you know, That's why I started journaling, because like you'll read what you're writing and how you felt in that moment and how you feel right now, and you just see how fleeting those things are, and it just reminds you, just keep going, like no matter how you feel, like those things come and go, and you just gotta stay focused on the mission.
It makes it easier to to feel. I think I always remember to feel better too. Just I know exactly how I was feeling when I made my video and watching it. And it's man, I did grow a lot. I think that's one of the things that we take for granted is our internal growth. We look around us and we're like, oh, this is going good now. This is going good now. But it's damn, I'm doing good now.
Yeah.
That. But that junk is super underrated.
Yeah, it is.
So another thing that you said in there, old Stanley Sr. said, losing the relationship, but keeping the friendship. Why is that hard for people to do? And why do you think that's hard for men specifically to do?
Because I just think, just like Tony was saying earlier, you invest in something, so you just feel like it shouldn't go wrong or shouldn't mess up or shouldn't fall off. I've had many friendships, people I thought I'd be friends with for a long time, that we just don't talk as much. Not anything malicious, just kind of life's bringing us two different ways. And I think it's hard just because you saw that person, somebody was going to be in your life for a while, and they weren't, or they're not, or sometimes you just don't understand why things happen. But I just feel like you can still always come back to a relationship and still, I think the same thing you wanted out of it, but it'll be what you needed at that time where you are in your life.
Mm.
And I think that's important to understand and remember.
Yeah. So I think it's just because someone is good to you doesn't mean they're good for you.
Yeah.
I think that's something so hard for us to understand, because it's well, he's not, he's not doing something behind my back. He's not backstabbing me. He's not doing things that make it so clear, black and white. But it's being able to identify those that are helping you grow in the direction you're going during that time, which makes it even more important for us to know ourselves. So we can identify those people who are all right, even though I know you're good to me, I can't take you with me, at least not right now. So yeah, I think that's important as well.
And kind of go to that part of the environment, just people, there's a saying that says, if you're in a barber shop long enough to go get a haircut or something. So it's basically I didn't want to smoke anymore, and all my friends were still smoking. So I keep hanging out with them, eventually I'm gonna start smoking again.
Mm-hmm.
So I just had to cut myself off with them, while I really got this solid foundation of okay, I don't smoke anymore. Instead of having that urge to go back. Once and anybody who smokes every day, probably not gonna help. I'm not anything wrong with smoking personally,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think anything wrong with smoking. But it's just not what I'm gonna do at this point in my life. But I think it's just important just to understand that you have to surround yourself with people who are doing what you want to do.
Yeah,
and that's big.
100%. All right, let's pull up the next question in here.
A weakness that was highlighted. I think that I'm very undisciplined. I used to think I was an inconsistent person, but I think I'm just an undisciplined person. There'll be times where I'm very focused on something, and then I won't be. And I think that comes from a lack of discipline. That's something that's been highlighted this year. I think it just ties into so many areas of my life. Things are hard. People take things differently. And it's just important if you have somebody, man, reach out to them. See how they're doing. If you care about people, reach out, man. 2020 showed us that this world is so fleeting. Nothing lasts forever. if you keep waiting to do something, you can't let procrastination be your best friend. If your procrastination is your best friend, then poverty is your best friend, then lack is your best friend. So just do the things that you say you're going to do now. Don't wait until tomorrow. And this is the last thing I'm going to say. I was reading The Richest Man in Babylon, and it highlighted something that I do a lot in my life. He said he was going to go to the river and throw a pebble in the water every day. That was what he wanted to do, just throw a pebble in the water every day. But most people will say they want to do that. They'll throw a pebble in the water every day. They'll forget one day, and they'll be like, no, well, the next day I'll throw 2 pebbles. We can't be that. We can't do that. It's the little things that count. If you say you're gonna wake up every morning and make your bed, make your bed. If you say you're gonna wake up every morning and just do what you say. This is a time to keep your word, to be who you say you are, and to show people that they can count on you, because they're counting on you.
No, man. I mean, like, so I think it's kind of something special about that for real. It's like you can see, like, you can tell when somebody is not just talking about something to help you, but talking about something that they've been through. And you can tell when somebody's speaking to that. You can tell by that video that you're not just talking about like a call to action where you are, but it's like coming from a place of like, I know what this is like, and I know what it's like being here, and I want you guys to be here too. And this is what it's gonna take for us not to be here again. Just going back to your video, what do you think about? You said you were undisciplined, and like now where you are right now, like how do you feel about your discipline? Just less work, or that's just as a man, like what do you feel like your discipline's at?
I feel like it's definitely better. I was doing like, so I said before this Christmas like stuff came up, I was doing amazing. Like just waking up at 4, praying and reading for about 3 hours out of my day, pretty structured. Um, but as that, and I was still working out and stuff. But as Christmas light season came up, there was just so many. There wasn't enough hours in the day for me and everything. So I was either had to work out and do lights, or pray and read and do lights. And I picked the pray and read and do lights, and I didn't work out at all for like almost a month and a half. And I got a trial, in about a month. But as I was praying and reading at times, God was like, I kept seeing Matthew 6:33, like seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. And I just realized just how important a mindset seeking God is versus a mindset that doesn't seek God. And just the fruit that I know I'm going to get just from choosing, I know I need to work out in order to get this, but if I make this so important that I'm working out in order to get this, and I'm forgetting the Creator who gave me the ability to do this, then it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So it just showed me like, and that's not me saying no, be prepared, no, do what you got to do to make sure you're ready, but it's just saying like God's time is all that matters. Like, and I'm the type of person like, what to be my need for 6 months, I can do it in a month. What people may need for, Dad used to always say like, your 70 is better than a lot of people's 100. Your 60 is a lot better than a lot of people's 100. And I just got to realize that when you're serving God and, really trying to put that first and being disciplined with Him, this is just me speaking my personal experience. You always win. You always either get into a position where you succeed in what you were doing, or God aligns your heart and your desires to do something that'll work better. But my discipline only goes as far as my discipline with God is. If my discipline with God's bad, it just trickles on in all areas of my life, and everything else is bad too.
Mm-hmm. I think this has been dope. Like I have a little closeout section. This is kind of just your voice and your time. So the first opening of the question is, what words of light or overcoming do you have to say to the people, specifically men, who are struggling right now in a bad place, dealing with anxiety, depression, confidence issues? Like, what type of words of encouragement would you give them right now?
One thing I'd say is, God's not going to put something on you that you can't handle with Him. People misconstrue that verse and say that God's not going to put anything on you that you can't handle. If you try it by yourself, like, you're going to get broken. But if you just walk through with Him, and it's a walk. I realize it's not a run. It says Psalms 23, it says, "Thou walk with God in the darkness." It didn't say run, it says walk. So you gotta understand, like, we're walking with God. It's gonna be a slow process sometimes, and we gotta be ready for that journey. And don't worry about duration. Just worry about progress. When we worry about how long something's gonna take, it can get overwhelming because you're like, man, it's gonna take this long to get to where I want it. But if you kind of just focus where you are, everything will flow. And also help people. Like, when you help people with their problems, it makes your problem seem so smaller. If you reach out, like I said, reach out to people, really trying to encourage them. Just like I was saying earlier, you reap what you sow. So if you're sowing encouragement and you need encouragement, somebody's will come back and encourage you and give you those same things you're looking for. So the thing that you're looking for in life, I would say, is sow with other people so that you'll get it back. And, you'll be in the spot that you want to be in.
Yeah. And then the last thing I go into, we kind of hit on this before the video started, but I'll just do it for the listeners. So I'm going to go over 4 different areas of your life, and I just kind of want you to talk about, or just say where you're currently at on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not doing great, and then 10 being almost the best it's ever been. It's mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically. Mentally is your peace, like your peace from day to day. So every time you lay down and go to sleep, like, you're able to go to sleep with peace. You would wake up the next day, like, walking away from whether it's work, whether it's any life issues. They don't follow you from day to day, because every day is new. Every obstacle is new. You might you might think about them, yes, but they don't ruin your peace. They don't ruin your walk or anything like that. And so that's like what I would call like a strong mental mindset. And then you have emotion. So let's start there. Where you at mentally?
Mentally, I probably got a 9. I feel like there's very little thing that can bother me at this point in my life. Like, just kind of let it slide off my shoulder, slide out, nothing really bothers me.
Yeah.
So I'd say about a 9. The reason why I'd say a 10 is because there still are some things like I could have handled better, analyzed better, and spot emotionally, kind of realizing and being aware of what was really happening or what was happening within the person. I would have handled it better.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and then we have emotionally, which you kind of just touched on, and that's you knowing the emotions you're carrying and being able to see yours and others in the moment and adjusting as necessary. And I kind of like what I think of, like, as a strong emotional person. It's like the analogy I kind of think of is like you are walking up a mountain with something over your shoulders, and you don't know what's in the bag. But then, like, you look in the bag and you say, "Oh, there's a bunch of boulders in this bag." Now, I might take breaks on the way up. I may not try to run. I'll have to walk. I'll just walk differently because I know what I'm carrying. And it's not. And then it's like, oh, if it's feathers, I'm just going to run the entire way. And that's what I kind of feel like emotions are to us. It's like we are carrying this thing, and it's like, unless we know what emotion we're walking with, we're not. Like, we're walking into all these different scenarios in our everyday life, not really being ourselves, because we have something that's attached to us that we're not even addressing. So as far as, like, I'm acknowledging today I'm walking into this, I'm kind of upset, I'm kind of on edge, and that's going to make me feel differently when somebody says this to me, and that's going to make me feel differently if somebody says this to me. And so now, like, me realizing that when that happens, I adjust, and I don't, well, that's snapping back or something. It's like I take a deep breath before I respond. I understand. And so how are you doing emotionally, 1 to 10?
I think my emotions probably 9.5. I mean, I remember when, I think it's because my communication's gotten better. Like, I let my girlfriend just know, like, hey, like, I'm not really in a space to have this conversation emotionally. Like, I'm not emotionally available to give you, like, what you need in this conversation. Like, I can't have this conversation right now. We can have it, another time. Like, I've been more aware of, like, how I'm feeling and, like, how I'll, take certain things that they're said to me. So I think I've been more proactive with my emotions for sure.
What's up? Next one is spiritually, and this is not necessarily faith God based, but if it is, it's great. But this is something that just kind of keeps you like centralized to you, like whether that's some people it's just reading, it's hobbies, it's things that you do that are unique to you that just keeps you James, like keeps you like today I did this for myself, or sometime this week I took out time for myself to just reconnect with who I actually am. 1 to 10.
I think it's probably got an 8. I used to meditate every day, twice a day. Like when I woke up and before I went to bed, I haven't been doing that. And like as far as like I said, I'm still waking up and reading and praying, but it's not the time that I usually do. So I just haven't been as intentional with that. I'm still doing it, but it's not as like carved out. It's kind of like the time is shorter and everything. So I probably say like an 8.
Okay. And then last one is physically, and that's just health, eating, fitness, 1 to 10.
I thought it was like a 9. I feel like even though I was working out, I was trying to eat better. I'm trying to get back, trying to gain about 15 pounds. So lost a lot of weight while I was doing the Christmas light stuff. Probably lost like 10, but I said like an 8 actually.
Still sounds like a 9.
8, 7.5 really.
But, well, man, the last section is just kind of my appreciation for you and the fight that you've been in with football for these last X amount of years, like since high school. There are so many people that would have given up so long ago. And for me, like being your little brother and watching you go through that, like I didn't even care about results and anything I did because I was like this man's still fighting every single day and facing challenges every single day, like going to the ups and the downs and still working at it. And that's so hard to do. But watching you be disciplined without seeing the fruit, like made me see life so much more about the journey, not the destination. And that it always inspired me, like even like in my pilot training and all that, like anytime I was going through like a patch, it was just like, hey, just keep working, like, because the time will come where like the work will pay off, like even if it's not in this area, like if you're learning something, you're going through something that's going to bring you prosperity in this other area, and that's like, this is always so much inspiration for me. It's just watching you do that, and for so long to be engaged in just fighting that entire time. It just, and I'm telling you, man, made it a lot easier for me to go through any type of obstacle. So I was like, man, James still grinding, like, so it don't even matter. It's like I'm complaining, like, but I'm here, like not even being there and still grinding. Like, that's a whole other mindset that I'm not even tapped into. So that, and and that's just like something that like I just watched you do, and I was just so inspired.
Appreciate it.
So appreciate you, appreciate who you are, appreciate you being my first episode of Mental Check. With many more to come, and yeah, appreciate you.
Yeah.